Okay, I guess we're recording. Okay, this is Real Talk with Kristi. We're doing this on Friday. What's the date?
May 29th.
May 29th. That's my memory over there. And my sister and her family are here from Michigan, so we're a little bit late on the podcast. But this is our happy hour version. Cheers. So we're going to talk about the funny things that happened this week. But I thought since my husband was here, we could get an update on what's going on with the coronavirus. Because you said you looked at the cases in Missouri and what you think about it.
I mean, there's been an uptick, certainly, but not many new hospitalizations and a handful of deaths. Not that those aren't significant to somebody, but we haven't seen huge numbers so far. In some of our strategic planning, where I'm at, we're just being very vigilant over the next couple of weeks as social distancing kind of changes and people are more out and about, just to be cautious, particularly with the system I'm in, because we have 700 plus nursing home patients, and that's always been our main focus, is to protect them, just to make sure that we continue to do our screening and keeping our patients safe. We're also
I'm looking at the angle.
Yeah, we're also doing sentinel screening on coworkers to try to detect any asymptomatic carriers that might be working in our nursing homes, and restricting new admissions to the nursing homes. So,
not to interrupt you, but I do that all the time.
You did.
So, you probably can't. Can you say? I mean, I can say because it's my podcast, but. I think it's kind of ridiculous that he's extended the non-social distancing order until June 15th.
Yeah.
The governor. Yeah. Can you say, or I mean, I can.
Well, I think we're doing just fine. Of course, we're in Southwest Missouri. We're not in St. Louis or Kansas City. There has been an uptick, so I can understand the concern. But hospital resources are in place, PPE's in place, screening. Both for the swabs for active infection as well as serology is in place. The antiviral, remdesivir, if I'm saying that correctly, is available. So, we are in much better position than we were 4 weeks ago. So not quite sure why this had to take place, although on the state calls that I'm on, every week that Randall Williams does, who is the main advisor, and I think he's the head of the DHSS for Missouri. I mean, he's a very knowledgeable and level-headed guy, so there may be some other concerning point of why he did that.
Well, that's a good point. But I'm always a skeptic, so no comment. Well, okay, so we have to mention, because I've talked about some of this on the radio yesterday, that Lake of the Ozarks had an awesome party. They were partying like it was 1999. And which I think that's totally okay, because my point yesterday was that they're not violating any laws locally at Lake of the Ozarks, although they received national attention. The Great Clips lady in Springfield, Missouri, where we live, she had actually been to the doctor and had requested to have COVID testing. Now they're receiving death threats, so all the Great Clips had to close down. Then our health director of the health department, he chastised her, and so now she's humiliated, even though she had the proper procedures. So I think maybe those two cases, especially Lake of the Ozarks, had something to do with maybe the governor extending the order. But I mean, I could be paranoid. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it may be. And there's recently, just in the last hour, they've said that there was someone at that pool party that has tested positive or whatever, so some people may be exposed. That's going to happen. You can't control that. Those folks were out having a good time. Reportedly the folks were were screened for their temperatures when they went to the bar, which seems like a responsible thing to do. The bar owner can't be out there with a 6-foot measuring stick keeping people out of the keep people away from each other. But the hairdresser, I mean, she went somewhere, was concerned about it, was told she had allergies, was given some Claritin or something like that. Then she was thoughtful enough to continue and go to the health department and to actually get screened because she hadn't been screened at the first place she had gone to. So she was concerned about it. And she was trying to keep herself safe, I'm sure her family safe and her clientele safe.
Talk about harassing.
She gets railroaded.
I know.
But that's just typical reactionary, of how bureaucracy works sometimes.
I love the meme. I can't remember the percent. It said, give me liberty or give me a 0.0002% of death. So, I thought that was awesome. I'm like, that is so awesome. I don't know. I just think it's like way overboard. I finally got my hair done today. So that had been 3 months that I hadn't had my hair done. I've been doing it myself and the kids have been helping me.
Me too.
And and I don't have my nails yet, so that's the next thing. But out trying to support local business. But it was just so over the top. I mean, I understand protecting people, but you couldn't walk inside and they had to wear a mask the whole time. And although people were already 6 feet apart everywhere, and to me, at least where we live, it just seems like so overboard. And but I mean, don't you think it seems like you can't stay in hiding forever? I mean, we need to open up so people are exposed to it.
And the whole purpose of doing this was to flatten the curve.
Yeah, right.
And the curve has been flattened. Some states never really had much of a curve. There was never a surge that inundated at least our local hospitals. I can't speak to St. Louis and Kansas City because I know they've had much higher rates in Columbia. But the point was, it's not to make sure everybody survives. We were trying to protect the most at risk. But to think that everybody and the whole, economy can stay locked in their closet, for another 2 or 3 months, till there's absolutely no cases or whatever, is ludicrous.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I said this on the radio. I sometimes repeat myself, but different people listen to the podcast and the YouTube channel and the radio. So, but I said we're creating a society of wimps because it reminds me of the Seinfeld episode where the kid is in the bubble, and I feel like that the government is going to try to protect us from every little thing that we do, and that's not their job. The government is supposed to work for us. We're not supposed to work for the government.
And you're seeing it now too. I mean, suicide rates are up, depression's up, poverty's up.
Anxiety and
poverty goes up. That increases. Domestic abuse, drug abuse, crime, child abuse. With the stress of the situation and everything else. So. And that has to be taken into account. I don't know that that's ever being weighed on, anybody's, metric, but
drinking and eating her up.
Yeah.
Especially at our house. Well, that one county in California that I was reading that the past 4 weeks is a higher suicide rate than the previous whole year. And so one of the psychiatrists there was saying that it was critical that the state open up because of all the mental health problems. And so that's what I was saying tonight when my sister and her family, as I said, are here from Michigan, which is a whole other story about their governor. But if you add up the deaths from people committing suicide, the people that couldn't have their procedures done, because they were entering surgeries at hospitals, if you add up all of those, is that probably more than what the deaths of COVID are? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see.
Over the same time frame, I'd say no. But, there's a lot of stuff, look at the number of, shootings, in the big cities, Chicago, St. Louis, and all the rest of that occurred over Memorial Day weekend. There are more people shot and killed, in those major cities, than there were deaths in the state from COVID, or similar numbers, and they don't get the press, so what's going on with that, so.
Well, I know, and then So if someone dies from suicide and they have COVID, then how do you still classify that as a COVID death?
Yeah, I mean, hospitals get paid more for COVID deaths.
Yeah,
COVID
I just
admissions.
I think that's crazy. I mean, we were already creating this like society of wimps before, and I mean that because, I mean, there's certain things are good, seatbelts and helmets and that kind of thing, but we've gone so much to the extreme that people, the kids can't ride their bikes. I mean, people can't leave their house, and they've created this society of fear that people are afraid to do anything. I think it's too bad because you shouldn't be so scared of dying every single minute of the day. And that's I mean, are we going to do this every flu season? Are we going to go through this?
Hopefully the American public won't stand for it. That's and you see people now, saying, disregarding the rules and going on and doing what they want to do. And, you're still an American. You're still born a free citizen. You still have rights.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, I saw the Lake of the Ozarks thing. I was like, good for you. Do your own thing.
So
you're not hurting anybody. You're not violating anything. Everybody's there on their own free will. If they get COVID, that's their decision. They're an adult.
Yeah.
They already know what's going on in the news. I mean, they weren't violating laws.
I will say, though, that I still think, masking is a vital thing, if you're going to be in close quarters, like a supermarket and something like that. Not so much for catching it, but if you're asymptomatic, so you're not spreading it. Again, we have very little penetrance in this part of the country, in this part of the state. So, adherence is, kind of lax. I mean, I was in Walmart today, and it was probably 50-50 masked versus unmasked.
Are you sure that's recording?
So... yeah, it says 11:33.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So
just
edit that out. I've lost my train of thought.
The mask, yeah.
So no, I just masking is still important. And that may be something that we continue to do for several months, but it's a lot easier to wear a mask and not spread it around and still go do most of the things that you want to do, knowing that you're keeping people safe, and if you're out socially and not wearing a mask, then you're taking the risk, and you understand that.
If it's lower than the flu, why do we have to wear a mask? Because people are still going to catch flu.
It's more contagious than the flu.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So,
well, the one thing that I will say is that we love going to concerts. We couldn't go. We can't go to Dave Matthews because they canceled I bought the tickets the night before. I think I mentioned that on YouTube last week. And on the podcast that he canceled the whole entire tour the next day. So we've been watching his drive-in concerts every week.
And good for him for donating that time.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I just think that he needs to stay out of the political arena. And, I mean, he just feels like he has to say something.
That's not going to happen.
I know, he's not.
He just says what he says. So.
I know, he just needs to play music. That's all I just, I don't want to listen. If you're going to really make people want to relax, let them listen to your music and not give us a lecture. But maybe
I'm with you
maybe
there.
to play music, he has to clear his mind or something. Maybe that's a thing. But
he's a social justice warrior.
I know, and he's a big Bernie Sanders fan, which drives me up the wall.
For a guy that's worth $40 million, I think that's interesting.
Oh yeah,
I know. 40.
Is that how much he's worth?
Maybe it's more, but I think he's worth 40
His concerts were really good. I mean, granted, I would like to meet him, but I still think that he's a socialist. But I don't know. I mean, the concert was broadcast from Charlottesville, I assume from his house. Did he say that?
Was it in Charlottesville or Seattle? I don't know.
I think it was in Charlottesville. Well, anyway, he was doing it to support the small businesses in Charlottesville because that's where he got started. Yeah. And my brother-in-law, I don't know, they're in the front yard, but he played football at UVA, so we were asking him about that. But they were talking about all the local restaurants in Charlottesville, so that was kind of cool. Okay, so I'm not going to go too long on this one, but I do want to mention, hopefully I can do this tape a call thing. Joe Biden, that we always like to make fun of, and the funny meme, speaking of mask, is that he always has was it black mask, and somebody said, is that a muzzle or is that a mask? If it's a muzzle, it's to keep him from sniffing all the girls' hair and getting close contact with women. I thought that was really funny. So obviously race, unfortunately, I really feel for the man's family in Minneapolis, but is on everybody's mind. But the thing is, the media totally give Biden a pass. I mean, they totally do all the time. And so Cal Thomas had a really good article this week, and I think I found out a Fox News app or whatever, but Biden said he wanted people to look at his record on race, but Cal Thomas said they could be in for a surprise. This is so funny. I always have to laugh when I think about Biden. And that's the reason I'm really glad that he's a candidate, because I can tell numerous jokes. But do you want to say anything before I start talking about this?
No, he's going to end up being a punching bag like Gerald Ford was, when he ran back in the day.
Oh, that's a good point.
SNL is never going to take off on Biden because they're too scared. They don't have the nuts to go after him, and plus they're all donors to his cause anyway.
Can we say that on YouTube?
So,
yeah, we probably can.
You can edit it, I guess. But it's just, and the way comedy is anymore, very few people, really go after people like that. But they would have a field day back in the 70s if they caught.
I kind of like this happy hour type thing. This is kind of fun. So, even though everybody bailed on us, everybody was going to be on the video today, and they're in the front. But yeah, I'm going to talk about Biden, but I do feel bad that my sister and her husband live in Michigan, and they have 4 kids, and they're here, and the hypocrisy of their governor wanting everybody to be in lockdown, but then her husband can go drop her name and go get a boat, and then the governor of New Mexico, she wanted to buy jewelry, so she violated her own lockdown order to go get jewelry. So it's a bunch of hypocrites.
Above the law.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so these are quotes that Biden has made in the past. In 2007, he was talking about Barack Obama, and Biden said, God. He said, you got the first mainstream African-American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. That's a storybook, man. And then he said, you've already heard all these, but then he said, last August, while speaking to the Asian and Latino Coalition in Des Moines, Iowa, Biden associated black people with poverty. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Then in 2006, he said, you can't go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. And then he was talking about 1977, his kids growing up in a jungle. And he's talked about minorities turning into predators. So, I don't know. The mainstream media always forgives him. After the You Ain't Black, you had luckily some of the African-American celebrities came out and were saying, he's not going to tell me who to vote for, but...
Not enough of them.
Yeah, I know. That's right. I saw
enough.
Kanye West, but you kind of already knew about him.
Yeah. The thing is, he's so tone deaf, he doesn't even realize probably now, how offensive those sentences were. And he's probably...
That's just how he is. Yeah. I don't think he understands.
I don't think he
understands that the way he is. And I think he's existing when it was 100 years ago.
Yeah. And how much plastic surgeries he had? He looks younger now than
he needs better plastic surgery.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi looks like Michael Jackson to me. She totally looks like Michael Jackson. I don't know who her plastic surgeon is. She looks good on some days, but I'm an image is a huge thing in DC. But yeah, Biden, I keep saying Biden needs to... Oh, look, the sun's going down in the video. Biden totally needs to use some kind of self-tanner or something, because he is not looking good in quarantine.
No.
So, everybody has to be careful. I just thought, because we have a river on our property, I'll flip it around and show everybody, but there was an article in a river in Indiana. A guy was drunk and he passed out with a rum bottle and went 7 miles and almost went over a dam. So make sure that you are not on it was a flooded river, and make sure you don't drink and go.
Was he floating with
the bottle? He was floating in a canoe and he passed out.
Hey man, it's America. Huh?
I know, but he had a mask on. I just kidding. I don't know what else there is to talk about.
No, I think we're good.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, this has been kind of fun. I like this happy hour thing. And I'm glad. Thanks for everybody watching. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube. And we have some of the quarantine videos and all the podcast information. And But that's kind of, and you also can, get on obviously where you get your podcast and get it, but spread the word. And we're going to go back to having more guests after this ridiculous lockdown is done. So, is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good.
It's been Real Talk with Kristi.
See ya.